It's a philosophy of going the extra mile. It's the do unto others. It's part of our mission statement is to follow the golden rule, and that really breaks down to treating other people as you want to be treated, giving the kind of service that you want to give. People don't talk about average service. People only talk about really great service or really lousy service. We want our customers to talk about us. We want them to talk about us, our great service. That's what we're trying to get them to talk about. Average service, nobody talks about. We want them to talk about our great service. And we do a lot of things. Our employees look for ways to kind of go over the top. And in this company, they're rewarded when they do that. I hope there's hundreds of examples out there, and I hope there are 100 more still to come.
Good afternoon and welcome to the regularly scheduled meeting of the Amarillo City Commission held on the third floor of City Hall this Tuesday at 3 p.m. The first item of business on today's agenda is the minutes from last week's meeting, which was July 9th. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes as presented? Not, entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move for approval of the minutes as presented.
I second that motion.
We have a motion and a second for the minutes as presented. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes with a 5-0 vote. Ordinance number 7414. This is the first reading of an ordinance amending ordinance number 7151 to expand the definition of revenue subject to franchise fees. This ordinance makes no other changes to the franchise agreement. Are there any questions about this item from the audience or from the commission? If not, I entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move approval of ordinance number 7414.
Second. A motion and a second for 7414. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes with a 5-0 vote. Resolution, public hearing, and approval of the 2013-14 annual action plan of the Consolidated Plan for Housing and Community Development. This resolution conducts a final public hearing to allow interested parties to comment on the proposed activities and programs with the and authorizes the City of Amarillo to submit the 2013-14 annual action plan and the 2010-14 Consolidated Plan for Housing and Community Development in the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development. The allocation reflects the total 17% reduction in funding beginning October 1st, 2013. This federal funding will provide a variety of program services and projects which benefit low and moderate income residents and neighborhoods in Amarillo. The annual action plan is recommended for approval by the Community Development Advisory Committee. Are there any questions, anything that we need to go through in detail from the audience? I think we have some information on this that we'd like to go through. Who would like? Bill, would you like to do that, or James?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I would. I want to thank you and the commission members for your hard work for our city, and would like to, at this moment, if I could, recognize the members of the Community Development Advisory Committee that are in attendance today. If you would stand.
Don't be shy. We'd like you to stand. You all do a lot of work all year long.
And I'll recognize my fellow members that are here. Ruben Rivera. Always want to add another R in Ruben's name. Lee Studert and Rita Salderna. Rita, I always say it, Saldernia. Is that, I always add more letters. Thank you. And then I want to recognize those members of Community Development Office that are here. Mr. James Allen, who's Community Development Administrator, Catherine Foster, the Program Coordinator, and Dion Kaufman, the Housing Administrator. So with that, I'd like to go over the information and recommendations that we came up with after months of work. If you'll turn to the worksheet, you'll see our summary worksheet for the 2013-2014 annual action plan. And with that, if you would, I'll just go over the recommendations. From our committee, under the parks improvements for the community development block grant funding, our recommendation was for East Ridge Park for $326,435. Under the building safety, our recommendation was for the community improvement inspector for $61,447. Our recommendation for the demolition and clearance was for $90,000. Then under the category of public services, this category has a 15% cap, so the total amount we worked with was $230,672. So in that, Amarillo Multi-Service Center, Jan Warner Adult Daycare, our recommendation was for $21,000. For the Catholic Charities of the Texas Panhandle, their Interfaith Hunger Project, $22,750. Transportation for the homeless, $10,500. Family Support Services, their homeless counseling, $3,671. The Guy on Saunders Day Room, $40,000. For the PRPC Child Care Title 4A Local Initiative, $100,000. For the PRPC Area Agency on the Aging, their Food Net, $21,750. And for the Wesley Community Center, their Wrestling Club, our recommendation was for $11,000. So again, for the 2013-2014 public service category, the 15% cap totaled $230,672. $71. The next area in which we were making recommendations was on the owner-occupied housing improvements. The emergency repair grants for $321,259. The housing rehabilitation assistance minor for $50,000, and the rehabilitation support administration for $150,437. Under the planning and management, the program management recommendation was for $307,562. So under that category, the total for all of those above that I mentioned for the 2013-2014 request and our recommendation would be for a total of $1,537,811. The next area would be under the Home Investment Partnership Program for the home administration portion, which is a 10% cap, would be $53,900. Then for the home buyer assistance, we'd have $48,153 as our recommendation. Then the housing rehabilitation assistance, our recommendation was for $100,000, and then the rental rehabilitation was for $100,000. Under the category of Community Housing Development Organization, our CHOTO projects, we have two, which Amarillo Habitat for the Glenwood Edition would be $104,422. And then for the Catholic Charities of the Texas Panhandle, their multi-family project would be $105,578. And then the next under our CHOTO operating assistance, again, those two organizations were the only ones in that category, the Amarillo Habitat Glenwood Edition. This request is capped at a 5% of the funding, so we recommended $13,475 to Amarillo Habitat and $13,475 to Catholic Charities of the Texas Panhandle. So under that second grouping of categories, the recommendation for the 2013-2014 home requests totaled $539,003. Any questions?
No, I think just commenting that we know over a 3-year period you've had a drop in funding of about 40%. The agencies know that. They've struggled with all these numbers, and I know that the board does. I want to thank them for their efforts. They're never enough to go around. And this is becoming a worst problem each year. And we appreciate the hard work that's done, although we know it's kind of heart-wrenching when you can't do what you know you need to do.
Well, thank you. It was a lot of work, and I really commend my fellow committee members.
I would like to add the same sentiments. I've been involved with CDBG over the years and helping with some of these agencies, and so I know how heart-wrenching and difficult it is to make those decisions because everyone is deserving of getting funding. But when those dollars don't come back to us, we just can't do it. And hopefully we'll find better ways to access funding and from different sources so that we can all have a healthier community. And I want to thank all of you not-for-profit agencies and governmental entities who deal with these issues because we know you're really doing the best that you can and you are struggling to meet the needs of your constituents and clients. And I don't want to be in your shoes, but I do want to commend you for the work that you do because sometimes it's a thankless job. Thank you.
Thank you all.
James, do you have anything to add?
No, sir. Okay.
James, of course, did that as a volunteer for I don't know how many years. I didn't think he was that old when he worked in the city. Again, the people that work on that committee, we want to thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to comment from the audience about the report that was just given? Okay, so if there's nothing else, I'd entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move that we approve the 2013-2014 annual action plan as outlined.
A second.
A motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes with a 5-0 vote. Resolution number 4, we're going to withdraw that at this time. We have some other funding that we'll review, and that'll be on the agenda next week. Is that right?
That's correct, Mr. Mayor.
And we're also going to pull the boards and commissions. We're going to skip that item because we have some adjustments, another person to add to that list, and still some conversation with some of the proposed members. So we're going to pull that item. On the consent agenda, are there any items on the consent, the consent agenda is recommended the following items be approved, that the city manager be authorized to execute all documents necessary for each transaction. Are there any items that need to be removed? I think this first one, number 8, we're going to remove. Is that right, Commissioner?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to remove that for myself because I looked at it on the phone.
We'll come back to that one. The other item is B, is approval of continuum of care grant agreements. C is the approval of dedication of acceptance, electric power line easement, and D is the sale of property. So I entertain a motion then.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve the consent agenda as amended, so approval of items B, C, and D. Second.
A motion to approve on the consent agenda items B, C, and D. All those in favor signify by, excuse me, were there any questions about those items from the audience, pardon me, or from the commission about those particular items? Thank you. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes with a 5-0 vote. We'll go back into approval of the City of Amarillo College Affiliation Agreement. Do we have any questions about that item from the audience or from the commission?
Mr. Mayor, I will move for approval of item A of the consent agenda.
I second the motion.
A motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And abstain?
Aye.
So we have a 4-0-1 vote. Well, this concludes the regularly scheduled agenda for the Amarillo City Commission. We'll move back to executive session when this is over. It's however customary at this time to allow the citizens of the community with matters not on the agenda pertaining to the city's policy, programs, and services to speak to the commission. And the floor is now open for those comments. As you're coming up, we'd like to remind you that we'd like to keep those at 3 minutes, and if you begin with your name and your address, please. I invite anyone to come up and make comments, please.
Afternoon, my name is Kenneth Graham. I reside at 3007 Harmony Street. I'm coming before you today as the president of a nonprofit organization called Share the Road, which concerns itself with road safety advocacy for all users. I wanted to start out by saying I brought a copy of the City of Amarillo Hike and Bike Master Plan. This is the most recent one, dated February 2010. On the map, draw your attention to an area called the old Sonsea Trail. That's the former roadbed for Sonsea Road, pre-Loop 335 construction. And the trail itself, while it falls outside the city limits, it's within the city ETJ. The trail runs north from Amarillo Boulevard on the west side of Sonsea Loop 335, runs north for 3 miles, to Walcott Bluff Nature Center. It's a one-lane asphalt trail that's been left out there for the city and tourists to use. I believe it's been there for about 15 years. It's a wonderful trail. I've been before you before to speak about that. The trail itself and the advantages that it offers, not just our residents, but tourists. It is within the TxDOT right-of-way. I just received notice this week from Tracy Tillman at TxDOT, who functions as their bicycle ped coordinator as well as safety officer, that TxDOT will no longer maintain the trail, which the maintenance has been restricted to mowing alongside the trail, knocking down the weeds that grow up through the cracks in the asphalt, and then spraying those weeds for control so that the pavement bed itself is left pretty much intact. TxDOT's not been out there that I know of this year, so as you can imagine, it is very overgrown in that area, and particularly the southern 1/3 of it, which is from Amarillo Boulevard to 9th Street. While recognizing this is outside the city limits, because it is part of the hike and bike plan, and therefore, my understanding, the purpose of that is to make TxDOT aware of what the city has planned with the hike and bike plan. I think it's imperative that conversations be made with TxDOT about maintenance of the trail. The city has shown a leadership role in bicycle and pedestrian issues. I'd like for your consideration in taking on the maintenance related to mowing and weeding in that area. I'll pause since my time is up.
Thank you, Mr. Grant. I would like to refer this to city staff. I did have a conversation too ahead of the meeting, and we talked with Mr. Atkinson. He has some ideas, and I think we'll discuss those after the meeting or at a future date. I know you can't be here for the MPO meeting, but with TxDOT. Mr. Atkinson, we can look at that then, and what kind of...
I think there's some ideas that we can explore. We need some movement beyond the current situation before I feel like we can take city forces out there. We've got some ideas on that.
Sure. I appreciate that, and while I can't be at the MPO meeting, I am trying to muster up a replacement to speak on behalf of this project at the MPO meeting.
Do you have any figures on utilization? How many people actually use the trail?
Well, we don't do pedestrian bicycle counts anywhere in the city limit that I'm aware of. I know I was out there last night and having conversations with users. I was there for about an hour and a half and visited with about 15 people, Commissioner Eads, who were on their bicycles, who were running and also walking in the area, and they were all appreciative of the trail itself. It's a wonderful tool. It's worth millions of dollars. But if it would be of value to you, I would do my best to do some type of count out there during peak hours, which would be amazing.
We won't just drop this, we'll refer it to staff and see if we can come up with some ideas. I think your idea about some partnerships to deal with this would be something we explore. So there's several people that are interested in it. There's an awful lot of use. I've used it, and there's never a time that we don't have a lot of people out there. So thank you.
Thank you.
The only other comment I made, I'll get in trouble for it, but it doesn't look like TxDOT's done any mowing over any of the rest of the city either. There's not a thoroughfares anywhere that have been mowed, and I constantly get complaints from the citizens about it. I think they ought to wake up and take a look at what's out there on our freeways and highways. So I don't get in too much trouble over that, but it's fact. It's a fact. Anyway, are there any other comments? Not for
I have no comment.
Certainly, please come up.
My name is Ruben Rivera. I live at 1017 South Wiggins. And my comment to you guys is, whereabouts do we stand on that Key Anchor Lake project that we did do some blueprint, and they did the observation and everything else of that. But prior to Larry Orphanal, even Parks and Recreation, he did say that there was a possibility that means starting a soccer field. Now that, I don't know whereabouts it's at or what's taking place. I do know now that there is a windmill out there, because I walk that all the time. That windmill probably cost anywhere from $1.3 million to $2.2 million, according to my surveys back in 2012.
May I add something? May I interrupt for a minute?
Yes.
Something? That, I love to protest. The federal government gave us no right to invoke any of our zoning or planning laws, and they put it on their property without any kind of notice to the city. They don't have to notify us. They can do what they want to their property without us having a word to say about it. And there are a lot of people in the neighborhood that are unhappy with it. I'm unhappy with it. There's not a darn thing we're told we can do about it.
Okay.
So that's something I get from our federal government.
Okay, and the reason that I was saying that is because why somebody didn't approach this or ask any questions, because back when Alan Taylor was in office, he said that is a flood zone, if I'm correct.
I think because we can't start a discussion on a non-action item today, I'd like to refer that to Jared. There is, I know when we first met, Ruben, many years ago, you were concerned about that. There have been some studies done about it, and I hope that you would visit with Mr. Atkinson to give you some details about what is possible and what isn't. There's some engineering concerns that he can go over with you and talk about it.
Okay, because that's what I'm trying to do, because like I said, they're open up, did tell me that there is a possibility that could be established. Okay?
I think that there are some isolated areas out there, northeast corner generally, where there is some potential. I'm going to have to go with the commission back into closed session momentarily. If I could, Mr. Rod Tweet is back in the audience behind you.
Okay.
Come take a look, white shirt. Rod is our parks director now. He'll be glad to visit with you. We do not have a capital funding item at the moment to work on that, and it's pretty limited as to where we could. I think the school is making some changes over there, upcoming in that neighborhood. I'm going to see how that goes. And then
Yes, and that was one of my questions, we could do it in phases, you know, a million a year, I mean, just like we did at McDonald Lake. We did it in parts and pieces.
Yeah, working in the actual lake area is not likely in the near future. But again, there's a few areas that can be brought up out of the floodplain that have a possibility. We just need to work on it.
Yeah, because I took a couple of engineers out there with me too, and we kind of walked and looked at it as well. They're not locals, but I mean, they said, well, there's possibilities. There's possibilities here, okay? I'd like for you to take a look at that, if you would. Okay?
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for being here. Anyone else who would like to comment? Before I get in any more trouble with the state of the federal government. If not, we'll go ahead back to executive session. Thank you.